What does it mean to teach English as a second language, as a foreign language? So I'm going to tell you what I think this is and my experience and what I've read. Yes? When you talk of English as a foreign language, it's something that is not related to your environment. It doesn't really, you didn't really need it. You don't really need it to live, yes? Even maybe even to work or do something. You learn it because maybe there is a possibility that you're going to use this language in the future. Or maybe you're going to have kind of a contact with people with this language. But it's not related to your life. So you go out, you find nobody speaking English, so it's not a problem for you because it's a foreign language. So when you teach that in the classroom, you're not focused on people really don't want to see people talking English. You want to see people learning about English. People learning about English. And of course, the methodology is going to be a methodology that focuses on grammar, on accuracy, but not in proficiency, not in fluency. On the other side, if you think of teaching English as a second language, we think that the students is in an environment where he's surrounded people who speak that language, the second language. In this case, for example, Wayunaki, we can call it the second language where having classes here, Wayunaki, that's the second language because you can find many people speaking Wayunaki, yes? But in the case of English, it's different. So, the books, yes? The books that we're using were developed in a society and by people who thought that we were going to learn English as a second language, not as a foreign language. In the past, I remember the books that we used to have focus on grammar, yes? You see the lots of content that you know, it has lots of information. Two columns here, a reading, then something harder to do, just lots of information because it's a foreign language. You're not related to it. You need to learn the most that you can in a single class because it's not of your environment. It's just grammar, reading, and something like this. Yes, because it's not about your environment. But when you go to interchange, you find that it's as simple as they could made it. They could made it. Yes, very simple. Why you say interchange that simple? Because they think that you are in an environment where people speak English. So they're not going to fill the gaps with more information because you're filling the gaps in your life. So the problem is that some teachers, some people are still working in the former approach or in the other approach, the foreign language, using a book that is for a second language. You're going to say?
Well, I'll go to make a question at the end.
Please write the questions. The problem arises when we're working in an approach as a foreign language because of our tradition, because we have too many students in the classroom, it's difficult to the right to speak or whatever. And at the same time, the book is or was developed as a book to teach English as a second language. So how can we solve that problem? How can we solve that problem? And the real problem is that here, people don't speak English. So the student goes out, and there's nobody speaking English. Maybe you and me or somebody else, they're in the English area, but nobody else speaks English. So, are we supposed to use a book developed to teach English as a second language in an environment where they don't have English as a second language? How can we fill this gap? How can we solve this problem? That's the question because this is a great challenge, not only for us but for students. And maybe this is one of the causes we're not finding the wanted results. Maybe, yes, because we're working in two approaches. We have an approach for the book. We have a different approach in methodology. Yes. So, Write a question. Write a question.
What is the solution? You have a solution?
Of course, I have a solution.
Yeah.
The solution, I think, is the solution. You know.
Yes, I do.
Just change the book of the method. Change the book of the method. No, but let me tell you.
Pay.
Because I think it's crazy.
Pay for that, for better education.
I think it's something that you cannot be rational about the way that the second language or foreign language teaching and learning in Colombia is conceived. And I mean by in terms of policies, of national policies, of Ministerio de Educación Nacional. Ministerio de Educación Nacional imposes, and it's not me who's using this term, imposes a framework, a way of teaching and learning English in Colombia in 2004 without consulting anybody, but just tell me, just considering that Colombia needed to have bilingual student and bilingual education because everybody needs to speak English, because our need for technical, because we were going to be technical on technologies, serving to the multinational companies here in Colombia, giving them the best of us, prepared in the best of technical and technological universities in Colombia, whatever. But it was crazy because they were taking Colombia as an environment for second language, as you were telling. Second language, because what was going to be developed according to them and according to our law and according to the Ministerio de Educación Nacional, what we could be developing now is second language students, bilingual students, people who speaks the language. Well, do they have something in the environment as you were talking about, the difference between foreign and second language? No, that we are just acting in a foreign language context, teaching second language acquisition and not even learning. I think that the terms here, that the terminology here that we should be dealing with or we should be discussing is acquisition versus learning versus acquisition, because those two terms can give us a more concrete idea of the country or the environment that we are living in. Okay.
Yes. Yes, they
I think, well, point on here to intervene, and I want to do some expressing my thoughts about it, what you said and what he said. The point is that we cannot only be waiting for the government to change the way of thinking. That's the way that they plan to do, that's the way they think that the education should be handled. That's the point that he's saying. The point that you're saying, in that way that you're planning to say that books are created in a second language, teaching English as a second language, and teaching English as a foreign language is what we practice, but we practice in everyday life here. Because we don't have an English environment here, right? We don't have it around.
So how do we fill the gap?
I don't think we should fill the gap. I think we should do
You
what
can't fill it in, but you can fill because you are not a state, you're not a president, you're not the government, you're not a billionaire, you're not a multinational company, you're not someone who's going to come here to invest all the millions of infrastructure that
Anyways, I think there is something we can do, and I'd like to let you know.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Let me have something written in Spanish here. As I told you, the reason because of the book is not filled with information because the information is supposed to be found out of the classroom with the people, with the advertisements, in the TV and everything. That's it. So, interchange focus on proficiency, on talking. They want students to talk because they're supposed to go out and talk with everybody. Yes, because of this reason it's about talking. So we're working in a book that is about speaking English. Yes, but at the same time, how can we demand students to be fluent in English with a book that was developed to be used in an English-speaking environment? I personally believe this is one of the problems that we have. Yes. So it's not a bad book, but we need a different approach and a different kinds of students. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, another country. Maybe in the United States, yeah. Maybe,
I think we all know that with these
Maybe
books or
Texas.
any other book we could have learned because we wanted English. We love that. Despite of our schools, we learned English. That's it. Not because of them, but despite of them. Yes. Yeah. So, I know you know that, the communicative approach with an emphasis on learning to communicate through interaction in the target language, interaction in the classroom. Everybody talking. You were talking out, so you come to talk here. And you talk here to talk out of the classroom. The introduction of other authentic text into the learning situation. The provision of opportunities for learning to focus not only on language but also on the learning process itself. And in this, and then what we do think about it. The opportunity for the learner to think not only in the language, but in the language, in the learning process itself. And this is what I want to do about it.
Learning.
What is the role of the teacher? So we're going to keep using this book, all right? Because we want people to be fluent in English, we want them to speak. But they go out and don't speak English. So what can we do to, in a certain way, help students to solve the problem? What can we do? In my opinion, the case, you can solve this if you teach students to acquire, to learn the language. If you teach them how to learn the language. And I'm going to talk about acquisition because acquisition, they're in an English-speaking environment, so you can find people talking in English easily, yes. But if we can teach them to reflect on their own learning processes, they will be able, yes, to boost up their learning process, yes. So, in my experience, what I do with students, yes, I teach them how to learn. I teach them learning strategies. I teach them to make their environment an English environment by force. By force. You have to start seeing the world in English. This is the main job I do with my students. I try to change their minds. I remember my own experience as an English learner. I'm still an English learner and learning. Yes, I force myself to see things in English. Even when I go to the bus stop, when I go to the library, when I talk to somebody, when I see somebody doing something, if we can manage to make students to see themselves as English speakers, to see the world as an English-speaking environment, even his own room, his house, their street, everything. We're going to have students who can match in a certain way the purpose of the book that we're using. The problem is that the students don't have this kind of mentality, and they come here, they come with the old-fashioned, call it some way, the old-fashioned methodology. English is a foreign language, something that has nothing to do with me. They come to the book demands something that they don't want to do, they don't want to do, they don't like it, they don't know even what to do as learners. So they come here with the same tradition and the same approach, and they face a different approach, and they can match it. What do you want me to do? I'm studying for the test, and I pass the test. What's the problem? No, you need to speak English. What? I'm not used to that. I'm not used to that. What do you want me, teacher, to speak English? So they come from a different tradition, a book with a new tradition, a different one, and with a teacher that sometimes is, it's like surfing in two waves. I don't know. Sometimes using foreign language, sometimes using a second language. But if you don't define an approach, you cannot focus. You don't focus where to go. If you don't know where to go, what methodology you're going to use, then the students will not know where to go either.
The nowhere to go methodology, you have to use.
What'd you say?
The nowhere to go method or methodology. You're going nowhere.
Yeah, you're going nowhere. So we can see results. And I was talking in these days. I have 20 students in the fourth level. Okay, we're gonna have another exam, everybody together, about level 1 and 2, and I started asking questions. Everybody silent. So, what are you going to do tomorrow, Maria? They look at each other. Oh, well, okay. Tell me, what did you do last weekend? Okay, don't worry. Study these topics. I wrote the topics. Go to the house, study them. We're going to have a little quiz next class. They came to the quiz. I wrote the thing. Everybody failed, only but one person. Everybody failed but one person of 50 or 20. You said, wow. So what happened to you? There are 2 students who studied with me the first level. So what are you going to do, Lina? Lina, you studied with me, right? Yes. And what happened? I failed the program. Ah, good. You failed with me. Yes. And who passed you? Teacher Tal. Ah, yes. Do you know what? I am a demanding teacher because I don't want these cases to happen here. You are not prepared for the 4th level. Not at all. So why? Because I see teachers don't know where to go. Students don't know where to go either. So one another and another and another. So we need to define. If we're going to keep working with this book, learning English as a second language, it implies I have to change my methodology. I have to change, and I have to teach students how to become English learners, how to see the word in English, because it's a second language. We need in certain way to help them to fill the gap. And as my experience, in other hands, in the institute is quite different. Yes, there are some advantages. The number of students, we don't miss, classes, we don't skip classes. Yes, but the thing is that I go into the rooms regularly to teach them how to learn, how to think in English the whole day. This is the main job I do there. So I teach them to be English learners, so their mind changes. All right. I didn't know that, teacher, yet. This is what you have to do. What have you been doing your whole life? Oh, this is, you have not got any results, right? But if you do this and this and this and start doing that, you're going to fill the gap. You're going to be able to think in English, to be fluent, because you see the world in English. So this is the way I fill the gap with students. And it works. My experience is lots of people, I think, you've seen that. Lots of people in my institute talking in English, even here in the university. Yes, even here, but I have to say something. To work in the 4th level, I need to have students that have been thinking in English for 1.5 years. Because in the 4th level, they are supposed to speak English.